Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, I have often said in several videos that a lot of the agitations that goes on within the Nigerian space, Biafra, etc., is all about money, and the people leading these agitations largely are more businessmen than freedom fighters. So most times, or virtually really every time that I say this, you can be sure as night follows day that the usual knuckle grinders, the usual knuckle draggers that permeate these associations, this whatever it is that you call them, these movements, the usual knuckle draggers, knuckle grinders that populate this sort of movement, they charge immediately into your comment section, chanting Nzobu Nzobu and making all manners of threats. But nevertheless, Nzobu Nzobu all you like, as guys I bring you this, how Biafra agitation broke into factions under Kanu, Mefor, Dokubo, over money, others. Intelligence report is what is bringing out this information now. Intel report is being credited for this information. So this comes as no surprise, of course, to anybody, because of course, no matter how noble the cause is, as soon as you put the two elements of money and Nigerian in that mix, no matter how noble that cause is, and no matter how altruistic their intentions were before they come into the situation, so long as you have that potent mix of money and Nigerians, it always varies into that direction. People looting everything, and of course about wanting to live that large life. And of course now this is now what is Imagine again how Biafra agitation broke into factions under Kanu, Mefor, Dokubo over money, others, a headline attributed to Intel report. So now let's now see what intelligence is being reported here. Factions springing up in the indigenous people of Biafra amongst Nnamdi Kanu, Asari Dokubo and Uche Mefor are largely because of financial resources and control, according to a report by the SB Morgan Intelligence. The African-focused research firm, in its March 2021 report, which focused on IPOB, revealed that the Biafran group at the moment is seriously fractured, with many erstwhile key members now either with Mr. Mefor or charting their own course. At a press conference on Saturday, March the 13th, 2021, Dokubo, a former president of the Ijaw Youth Council and the founder of the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, had said he was the chairman of the implementation committee for a new organization called the Biafra Customary Government. But absent from the press conference were representatives of Nnamdi Kanu's Ipob, who had been vocal in the agitation in recent years. The SB Intel report stated that Mefor, formerly Nnamdi Kanu's deputy in IPOB, and Ralph Uwazurike, founder of the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, were, however, in attendance at Dokubo's meeting, fueling fresh realignments in the agitation and the sidelining of Kanu. It said the absence of Mr. Kanu from the meeting brings into the open a fracture within the secessionist movement in the former eastern region of Nigeria. Mr. Mefor, Mr. Uwazurike, and Mr. Dokubo have come together to form a government with Mr. Dokubo as chairman, Mr. Mefor as information minister, and George Onyimbe, a former top IPOB member who fell out with Mr. Kanu in September 2020. The issue which has splintered IPOB is one of control and money. Mr. Kanu forced Mr. Mefor out of IPOB after a faction of the UK chapter, led by Mr. Mefor, asked for an account of funds raised. Following that request, Mr. Kanu abolished the position of deputy leader, the position occupied by Mefor, but many members of the UK chapter remained loyal to Mefor, who many see as a better organizer than Kanu. Mr. Mefor is also registered as the deputy director of the organization in the UK, which means that Mr. Kanu's abolition of the position of deputy leader did not affect his official status. As the membership of the group divided behind both men, Kanu raised the stakes on the 3rd of March when he announced the dissolution of the UK chapter of IPOB in a radio broadcast. All the sources we spoke to were certain that whilst he is nowhere near as charismatic, Mr. Mefor is a better organizer than Mr. Kanu. From a Nigerian perspective, this means that he is more dangerous. Mr. Dokubo aligning with Mefor probably amplifies the threat to the country's oil economy, even though the bigger threat from the Niger Delta remains Tom Polo. The report noted that the Mefor group aligning with Dokubo would have a stronger effect on the southern region, with the Niger Delta militants able to respond in kind to any provocation by the Nigerian security forces. Mr. Mefor, like Ralph Uwazurike, believes in non-violence agitation and the lobbying of world powers to achieve an aim that they believe the entire region that comprised the defunct state of Biafra subscribes to. This is in stark contrast with the actions of IPOB's paramilitary wing, the Eastern Security Network, which is operated by the faction of IPOB loyal to Kanu. Mefor's non-violent approach is likely to gain him more support amongst the Igbo middle class, who are afraid of a repeat of the scorched earth kind of war that was fought 50 years ago. Most of those who may support the Mefor group are those especially turned off by Kanu's abrasive tactics, which has earned him more enemies in high places both within the southeast of Nigeria and without. The report added, so this is the cut and thrust of it. This is the cut and thrust of it. I have been saying a lot of these things now that this report is coming out with, much to my chagrin, because I say these things and the weight of abuse that you get from the usual quarters, the Nzobu merchants, the weight of abuse that you get from that quarters is like an avalanche. It's just all manners of abuse, even not taking cognizance at all of what is being said. So just in broad strokes, I agree with the Biafra agitation. I agree with that. I agree with the Biafra nation. I agree with that. I agree with the dividing of Nigeria along the three main structures of it: Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo. I agree with that, and I agree that there's marginalization. I agree that there's oppression. I agree with a lot of these things. So I agree with the struggle and the fight itself, because the struggle and fight for Biafra is also my struggle, because my struggle and fight, of course, is for Oduduwa Republic as well. So I agree with all of that, but the ways that it's being gone about, you can't necessarily agree with all of it, and I do not necessarily agree with all of it. And some of the characters that are leading the charge, I might not, and I do not actually, not just might not, but I do not wholesomely agree with some of them, and I'm not of the mind that their intentions are altogether altruistic, as you might well think at a first glance. So these are not first glance sort of people, and what usually underpins this sort of narrative within the Nigerian space is that element of money. So the element of money always comes in, and the element of money has come in again this time around. So just using the example that was cited in this report, what this report is saying, and a lot of the Ipob members will verify, But what this report is saying in essence is that what is now leading to this beef now that is going on within that space is the UK chapter of IPOB asking for an account of funds that has been raised so far, or how the monies were being handled. So now, in response to that, because of course they will tell you that they're about accountability and probity, I don't think there's a set of people on this planet that uses those two words more than the Nigerian person, especially somebody that is in charge of resources. They will chant as a mantra accountability and probity as they continue to cut away Commonwealth hand over fist. So that same language. So now if you're saying you're all about accountability and probity, the UK chapter now of your organization is asking to peruse the books to see how the money is being run. And then in response to that, you sack the lead person of that organization and then say that you're shutting down that whole chapter of your organization for having the temerity to ask how the monies that they are raising is being spent. So that this is the thing now, and it always boils down to this, because the two elements of the Nigerian person are money and power. These are the three elements, and if it's male, if you add sex to that, then you pretty much have the DNA of a Nigerian person. Money, power, and sex, those are the three things that the Nigerian male is interested in, and nothing really outside of that. I cannot really think of anything, and the three of them feed into each other anyway, because they need the money and the power to get the third, because that is the Nigerian mix. But even leaving aside all of that, the main thing that these people go after is money and power, and what is in play now is money and power. And a lot of these people that run a lot of these organizations, they might not have the interest that you think they have in a greater good. What are the chances of a Biafra nation being formed? The chances are very slim. What are the chances of the Biafra agitation getting to the table to negotiate? That chance is a lot more enhanced than a Biafra nation. But really, the central thing of it is a money move, because of course the Biafra nation is not going to break away anytime soon, but a negotiated position can be agreed if the at least, well, especially when we have a change of government in Nigeria, because we would need a change of government in Nigeria for that to come into effect. But in the mix of all this, and having now attained the sort of profile that it has attained, the Biafra movement now is now that potency of power and money, and that is like a beacon to the Nigerian person. So you now see them circling round that money and power thing, and the whole thing now has turned effectively into a business. Come share thought about all this with me in the comment section, but before you come into the comment section to engage, click on the red subscribe button so it turns grey. The bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Click on like as well, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm. Once you've done all the clickings, an intelligence report outside of Nigeria has now reported what we have always suspected and spoken about regarding IPOB, the Biafra movement, and similar movements. Nobody is left out. The movements in Yoruba land and everywhere else, it's all about the money and power, as it always has been within the Nigerian space. What says you? So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section, but here I say peace.